Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member Chris Farfoe, Smurfs 2.
Talohani, Mr Speaker.
Talohani.
It wasn't actually, just to correct you, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that understanding orders, Mr Speaker, but it wasn't Smurfs 2. That was my first movie. It was actually Smurfs and the Magic Flute, which was released around the early 80s. And now that David Clark has finished his speeches during this debate, I'm glad that that record will be over and that my name will not be associated with that movie anymore. But, Mr Speaker, I do want to point out that I think from time to time we get as MPs, as we debate issues in minutiae in the select committees and here in this House, we kind of lose track of what this actually means to the average punter. So we're talking about the movies here. And when a movie is released in the cinema, what we've had in the past is a delay period. I don't like to call it a ban. I'd like to call it a grace period for which the company that is distributing that movie can have 9 months grace where it can sell DVDs, the likes of this very good New Zealand-made movie, Mount Zion, to have that grace period in which it can have the period where it can make profits off selling the DVDs at full price. And after that 9 month period, Mr Speaker, anyone else can parallel import that movie in if they want to. And then obviously that's usually 9 months after the cinematic release. Usually you see the movies that were 9 months ago selling for $40 in the basement bargain bin selling for about $10. So that's what we're talking about here and that process. And this bill will change that process because it is in legislation that grace period is there, and extend that grace period for 3 more years, but reduce the grace period for the parallel imports to 5 years. And as we've said on this side of the House, the Labor Party will be supporting that, more or less for the specific reason to support the likes of smaller cinema operators in rural and regional areas. And we do, and that is the likes of Kaitaia. I haven't been to the movies in Kaitaia though, but we are wanting to support this bill for the reason to support the likes of those cinemas. And I do want to point out, and I do actually have to agree with some of what the New Zealand First member said, Tracy Martin. We do actually want to protect the jobs of the people who are working in those smaller cinemas. And I understand during the select committee process the figure of around 160 jobs in those smaller cinemas was mentioned, was raised, and certainly for the benefit of those cinemas to be able to change their technology and to support those businesses in those small areas. It's for that reason that the Labor Party continues to support this legislation, or this grace period being extended. We don't, however, believe it should be extended for the 3 years to, I think it's 2016, I believe. I'm looking at the Commerce Select Committee Chair. He's saying yes, it is extended to the end of 2016. We believe 2 years is enough for those cinemas to make the transition from the old 35mm technology to the digital technology, which of course I think another member, Kamal Bakshi, mentioned, is roughly in around 60% of the cinemas around the country. We also believe that the signal sent from the decreasing of the period from 9 months to 5 months should send a pretty clear signal to the cinema industry that this is the last chance saloon, that if they don't start transitioning to the digital technology, that they will not get another chance of extending this legislation that was passed in 2003. Labor will not support any further extension of this legislation beyond 2016, and as I would like to reiterate, we actually think it should end at the end of 2015. I do want to make the point to the member from the Greens, Gareth Hughes, that if he'd like to come and have a look around the Lighthouse Cinema in Pauatahanui, one of the cinemas that we're concerned about, and listen to some of the concerns that those cinema operators have, that they do very much appreciate the fact that we're able to give those smaller operators some more time to switch to the digital technology, and the likes of Gisborne, because it is those smaller cinemas that will be hurt if this grace period were to end on the 31st of October this year. The likes of the Lighthouse, I went to the Lighthouse in Petone recently to watch a great New Zealand movie, Mr. Pip, Certainly I think that cinema had transitioned, so a number of those smaller art house cinemas are transitioning, but we need to make sure we give them just a little bit more time to be able to make the switch over to the digital technology. A lot has been spoken, Mr. Speaker, in this debate about the movie experience, and it certainly has changed over time. When the Honourable Shane Jones may have watched the movie when the national anthem was played before the beginning of the movie, and the movie theatre was the only place to watch that movie. But having said that, times have changed and technology has changed. Mark Mitchell may have watched the movie when he could have watched it in the cinema, and then later on, maybe 3 or 6 months later, he could have. That's a very good point. That's 3 to 6 months later, he could have rented that movie out at the video shop, as Mr. Young was mentioning before. But now technology has changed so much that when a movie is released internationally, you can almost have it instantly. So that's why we believe that this piece of legislation does have a defined time frame, because we believe that Kiwis should have access to that content if it's being released, let's say in the States, and by some technology you're able to download it here in New Zealand instantly. You should be able to do that. I'm not sure if I'm about to break standing orders, but I just would like to acknowledge the Honourable Chris Tremaine, who's walked into the House, and take my first opportunity to wish him all the best when he post this Parliament. I share a radio show with him. We call it Ebony and Ivory. And I just wanted to wish... I won't make judgments on who is who. But I just wanted to take that chance to wish you all the best post your parliamentary career. You're one of the members across the House who has been very pleasant to me, and I wish you all the best in your business career, which I'm sure will be helped by the economic settings of the next Labor government. Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, sorry, just as I draw to a conclusion, as I begin my very long conclusion, this piece of legislation should be passed. There are concerns from the Green Party that it should not, but we believe in the interests of those smaller operators that it certainly should be extended. But this should be the last time that it is extended. This is certainly the last time that the Labor Party will support this legislation, because we believe that with the growing convergence of digital technology, we consider that New Zealand should be a modern and connected society, and we should be able to access the media or the movies at the same time as the rest of the world does, and we believe that's why just a 2-year extension should be put on this piece of legislation. We believe that the lack of legal methods to get this content, if it is released overseas, could lead to increasing the level of piracy out there. So people are actually illegally downloading movies, where we should have the technology and the ability to, in terms of the data caps and ultra-fast broadband, to make sure that New Zealanders can have access to this content as soon as we can. I think that the Reverend Dr. David Clark also mentioned that because, Mr. Speaker, that because of the increase, because of extending this period, it may also increase the price of going to the movies for the average Kiwi family. We think that's a shame, and certainly we hope that after that 2-year period, that when we scrap the 5-year grace period, that certainly would make the cinema-going experience much cheaper for... Oh, we were 3 years, sorry. More enjoyable and much cheaper for New Zealanders. And also it's a challenge to the cinema industry to make sure that they're more innovative in terms of trying to attract people into their businesses. Mr. Speaker, our support is qualified. We do note that it is a 5-month ban, a 5-month grace period on the parallel imports, and not the 9-month grace period that was introduced in 2003. And we believe that is sending a strong message to the cinema industry that they should get ship shape, or they should ship out of that industry. Mr. Speaker, we do support this piece of legislation because of those regional and smaller cinemas in those areas. It will protect around 160 jobs. But we do hope that in 2016 that will be the end of it, and we certainly won't be supporting any legislation that looks to extend that.
I call the honourable member